This podcast is sponsored by GRUSA.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, cats and dogs, and everything else in between. I'm DJ Composition.
And I am the youngest of the OGs.
And we are the Two Bright Guys.
And I'm still the youngest guy in the room. I'm sure I'm still younger than you.
Yeah,
so
you're way younger than me.
So that's what my name derives from. I take
lighter,
pleasure.
So you win on that one.
Yeah.
Get
Y'all
the
gonna
napkins.
get me back later.
You wet behind the ear. That's all that means. We got a special guest with us today.
Introduce yourself, sir.
My name is Darel Ross from Star Garden 40 Acres Soul Kitchen. 40 Acres Enterprises.
Enterprises.
That's right.
You like the black dude on Star Trek. It's like the Enterprises.
See, that's my tag, the Enterprise.
The Enterprise.
So,
All right.
we building out here. So how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the
Likewise.
invite.
Hey, I appreciate you taking the time and letting us unravel some things together.
Anytime.
Yeah, I felt like this was a critical interview for us because we do everything, of course for coverage, but for the city as well.
Right.
So it's a group of people that know you. We kind of travel in similar circles and people know you, but I felt like it was a lot of people who didn't know you,
right,
who didn't understand.
I try to keep it that way.
The mystery.
Well, it's still important for people to
Right,
know you, though,
right?
And so what we usually do is give people a chance to tell us where they're from, background, roots. So, were you born and raised in Grand Rapids?
Born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan.
All right.
Alger Elementary, Ottawa Hills High School.
So I went to Alger.
Yeah, Indians.
Y'all some Bengals,
Indians.
man.
Ain't no Bengals over here.
You went to Alger?
No. Oh, I went to Alger, Elementary, and then
wow.
Shawnee went, and I graduated from Madison. I'm from down
You did all
Lafayette.
that and then went to Union after that?
It's bloodline, man. Bloodline. I don't know what's going on in Ottawa right now, but you the man to save it. If anybody can save it, Darel can save it.
Ottawa's doing good things. They're doing some good things over there, tied to some HBCUs.
Yes, always had that plug.
JRPS in general is doing good work. I think, though, we can say when we went to Ottawa, it was just a different day. We had a different blend. It was before the Christian high school edition.
It was a whole different.
When they were still in athletes, we ain't gonna talk about that now, though, right? Christians still in athletes, Catholic.
That always happened.
It always happened. And the City League was better just in general then. Everybody was good. So you went to Ottawa.
Graduated, went to Grand Valley for a year, then I transferred. I didn't have a lot of sense when I graduated. I was a teenager. So,
don't feel bad, I still don't.
Yeah, so I'm gonna give you the short version of my college. So 5.5 years, 4 years later, I ended up graduating from Alabama A&M.
Okay, so you went to HBCU.
Yeah, which is really the salient story of my career is you just keep getting up after you fuck up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So,
definitely.
Like whether that was my college experience, business, entrepreneurship, executive. I mean, it's just don't quit. Just keep on going.
Gotta keep it.
So what was your major at Alabama A&M?
Finance.
Oh,
finance.
So you're a numbers guy.
Yeah, I was a numbers guy. Well, I was always a money guy. I don't know if numbers was right. So
it's all about the money. Like everything is about the bread.
So I started off in accounting, which is numbers.
Yes.
And I learned real quick that, I could.
Oh, no, I have an MBA in business.
Right,
Accounting's hard,
yeah,
bro. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Yeah.
I was like, I want to know the money, but I don't necessarily need to know what column. And
I don't need that ledger. Nah,
there you go. I wasn't good at that. So,
nah.
I transitioned. I had a year as an accountant major and transitioned to finance, which was a lot better.
Okay.
It gave me more of an expanded view. So.
And isn't it funny how like being, I hate the word inner city or urban, but accounting is kind of difficult, but we can count that money.
Oh yeah.
We can follow that money. If you put everything in dollars terms, we get it together.
Well, we can do finance. We can't do accounting.
Yeah.
Right. So the balance sheet and so forth.
Depreciation and stuff.
I always tell people when you can add by eighths and do the division we do in the streets, you damn sure can run any business out here.
Exactly.
So mathematically, that ain't the challenge. The opportunity is the challenge.
Yes.
Not the mathematics of it.
That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
So you left Alabama A&M. Did you come home directly?
Yeah. So I was one of them weird cats. I was always gonna move back to Grand Rapids. So I moved back.
Okay.
Opened up Allstate Insurance. First I started in Jenison, then I grew up, born and raised in the Boston Square area. On the Boston Square there at the time. Then M6 opened up another office, trying to make sure I get it right. Then after a while, through some life events, a good friend of mine got killed at what was the Shell gas station. Oh, it still is the Shell gas station right there. made me rethink some things. That's when I went and actually into the nonprofit world. So me and a good friend of mine, Jeremy Darel, co-founded Link, which really, that was at the spot in my life I was really about advocacy, connecting to opportunity, but really built on the whole cohesiveness of community. Like, I could be doing it, you could be doing it, but at the end of the day, we all intermingle, right? Our kids don't kick it together. We're in the same communities. So, how do you use that logic and come back and really build community? And that's what Link became about. So it was about connecting who you know, what you know, where you live, and what you make. And which a big piece of it was always advocacy, and making sure people was connected to opportunity. And that's what that what you make piece, which is economic development, has been what gave me the opportunity to come here to Start Garden.
Gotcha.
So again.
So how long were you at Link before you?
I was at Link probably 8 years.
8 years?
Yeah.
And it's something that you started, correct?
Yeah. Well, Link, prior to Link, Link was Lighthouse Communities. So when me and Jeremy came in, we reorganized, which is affordable housing. It was an affordable housing organization in the height of the real estate crash. So not a good spot to be in. So that's when we added the advocacy, economic development. We widened our footprint, went county-wide, took on a whole new mission statement and so forth. Then ended up here. After a while, after working in advocacy, especially around race, marginalized communities, you find out really quick that that it's really about economic justice. You know what I mean? So we were fighting for social justice, which is cool, and that respect and all that's cool. But really, at the elixir is economic justice, right? So like we were fighting for affordable housing policy, policing, all this. The best affordable housing policy is a community that has enough high-paying jobs where people can pay their rent. Right. So at the end of the day, the best education policy is jobs and opportunities where you can afford college and to go to a school you want to go to. So it really became a culmination of all that work under entrepreneurship, all that work under community building, and now. I get up every day to unapologetically to create wealth, predominantly in the minority community, and that's what I'm focused on.
Because the
wealth,
money,
not income.
It's a difference. It's a difference.
Yeah.
The wealth and that money generation, it changes everything.
Right.
Because even if you look historically throughout the history of our country, even when folks were still indentured servants, slaves, and everything else, if you had that money, it didn't matter.
Well, and you got to remember, we live in a time where the majority is real good at ignoring material fact. That's somebody else. Material fact in history, right?
Yeah.
Like wealth, generational wealth was built on the backs of free labor.
Yes.
Right. So
exactly.
It is about wealth, and now especially in the nonprofit space, and this is not to knock any of my colleagues, and it's needed, right, because of where we position historically. A lot of the work in our space is on workforce development,
right,
and talent attraction and so forth. That's great, and that's that great A to B step. But what happens is, after a while, you kind of create what I didn't want to happen, especially at Lincoln. Even now, you create this culture or this community of working poor. Right, because you're doing workforce development, you're getting people jobs, but they're not living wage jobs, they're not jobs that come with benefits, and it's not wealth. Again, we're focused here on Start Garden as we truly believe that wealth is the best equalizer for equity, and entrepreneurship is the best way to get to wealth. So unapologetically, that's what we try to do, is help people open businesses to create wealth.
And also money kind of changes the narrative when you come in a situation, and it might be, I don't want to say a racist situation, but that kind of erases a little bit of that line when you got your own money, or you understand that you can't rob me. I know my interest rate for my home, or I know what rent should be, and so we were talking about wealth and the housing crisis. How do you feel right now about the environment or the culture of Grand Rapids with the rent going up, the cost of living going up, and a lack of options to gain wealth, or at least an income?
Affordable housing is a loaded subject in Grand Rapids. Personally, I think it's one of those things where there's no longer affordable housing, I think we should just admit it and move on, which is very unpopular to say, but you can't retrofit affordability into a market, right? So if you got a hyper real estate market, houses are selling and so forth, there's not enough grant money, government money, or whatever that can offset that market. I think communities, residents, politicians, the commissioners has to be more strategic and upfront about what we call these tipping point neighborhoods. So when we look at Boston Square, when we look at Franklin and Eastern, when we look at these areas that have not yet gentrified, gentrified. What are we doing proactively to make sure that they don't gentrify, right? So when we were at, for instance, when we were at Link in Madison Square, I know you guys remember the yellow townhomes that used to all be through Madison Square.
Right.
Yeah, I grew up over there on Lafayette. I own a house in Boston Square now too. So
okay, so you doing it. You just gotta stay around long enough. But in Madison Square, we literally moved everybody out of them duplexes for a year, tore it down, rebuilt it, and moved them same people back. So now what you have is quality housing. You have affordable housing, but you didn't displace anybody.
Yeah.
So now as the market comes, right? So now as you go buy that house in Boston Square at Market, or you move into Madison Square, you don't have to worry about the community change. You don't have to worry about the culture changing because the affordable housing base has already been solidified. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of proactive housing affordability work going on because of the scope and size of the issue. Right. So everybody's in kind of reaction mode. The flip side is I think we got to be real careful on talking affordable housing and housing affordability, right? So which gets convoluted in Grand Rapids.
Can you break that down for the people?
Affordable housing is for people and families who can't afford rent.
Okay.
That's Section 8.
Section 8,
you make under a certain amount, we have an obligation to make sure you and your kids have safe housing. What has happened in Grand Rapids is we got this, your housing cost should only be a third of your income or so forth. So you got people at $150,000, $160,000 talking about housing is not affordable. Well, that could be true, and I'm not saying that, but again, I think communities got to prioritize who we build incentives around, and with limited pots of resources and so forth, where do we focus that on? Okay. And I think, unfortunately, we're kind of moving more into that middle income housing affordability for people like us versus truly as a community making sure that those who don't have those resources are taken care of and have stability around housing. And I don't think it's a right or wrong. I just think these are the type of conversations that communities need to have, and we need to bring that level of transparency to it, so that when those decisions are made, we know it's one thing to choose, housing affordability for middle class over housing for poor folks. That's fine, but let's be honest as to the policies we put in place.
What we doing, right?
Because everybody trying to lump themselves in that same group.
Yeah, but it's totally different when you're coming out of Mill Trotter versus when you pay rent and you only got $300 left.
Yeah,
like those are two different scenarios. Both bad. Don't get me wrong. But again, it's like us. When we got limited resources, you got to pick out what you're gonna prioritize.
What's gonna get paid today?
And affordable housing is just hard because you can't keep up with the real estate market. And you're always gonna get people nationally who argue that we don't have an affordable housing issue because New York is $3,000 a month, right? So it all depends on your context and your lens. So.
Yeah, and also I think too an issue with the black community, like Comp was saying early on, our grandparents, the great grandparents worked hard for those homes. So my grandmother lived on Lafayette for 60 plus years until she died. Our family owns the house still. We still get knocks on the door, people offering to buy the property. But the neighborhood has changed because when the parents or grandparents die, the kids fight and sell the property. And so they're kind of letting people in at a lower rate. They're taking the first deal that comes, they're splitting the money, and then they're complaining about there's no homes around. So I think as a people, I think we got to kind of hold on to our property too a little bit, and don't let the first dollar entice us to get everybody out.
Yeah, I would say this, and this is going to be controversial. Don't take that first dollar, but don't ignore that last dollar. Because real estate is to make money on too. So I think we got this 2020 hindsight vision of middle class black people fled the hood and sold out, and now the hood is like it is. I would argue that housing ownership creates wealth, and you should be unapologetic of getting wealthy off your house, right? So I think the only worst thing in that scenario is thousands and thousands of black people staying in neighborhoods and staying in locations and housing that are actually going down in value because they want to be, altruistic as to this, because community now is anywhere, right? I would argue that it's not the dissemination or the breakdown of middle class black people in the urban setting that's the issue. I would say it's the attitude and the docile ass middle class African Americans around them black people that's in the suburbs that's part of the issue. Right? Because your geography and zip code don't dictate your activity or your energy, right? You can advocate for young kids from Kentwood. You can go volunteer for the hood from Caledonia. You know what I mean? But we got to stop looking at this stuff as some things are economic. Housing, property, that's economic. You buy it low, you sell it high. You make your money, you move on. That's wealth.
Yes.
We've lost a lot of that wealth opportunity. If you look at redlining, the inability to own homes. Then when we finally own homes, they finally not going up in value. Now you got to argue against your whole community to take advantage of what everybody else is starting off at 2 or 3 times. But I would argue if you don't flip that first house, if you don't sell that first house, how do you get your first wealth? How does your kid born? I mean, with us, right? Because we ain't gonna come up on 100 stacks or 50 stacks or nothing like that.
Yeah,
so,
unless it's real estate.
Right.
And people always wonder, like, why do younger white families move into the inner city, and then they stay in the house, fix it up, and then they move?
Because they buying low, selling high.
Yeah, and
it's a commodity.
Yeah.
It's like cars. I used to put rims and paint my cars and shit, put all kind of stuff on it. Until I traded that first one in, and I'm explained to me that I didn't do nothing. Like, it didn't go up in price. It didn't do anything. It didn't add any value. So that was an investment. It didn't add any value. But I would say, don't get me wrong, you should buy a forever home, and hopefully your forever home is somewhere you love. But as far as community, I think we got to start. I mean, this is 2018, right? Community could be social media. Community could be who you grew up with. The spatialization and spatially, community looks different.
Okay.
But I think we owe it to ourselves to stay involved and to still work for those causes and not forget where you came from, regardless. But I would never tell anybody that there's any honor in foregoing making $75,000, $80,000 because you know what I mean. You want to keep it real because the reality of it is these markets peak, right? Okay. So at some point that 75,000 gonna be worth 30,000.
Yeah.
Now
what's the 40,000 difference?
What's that worth? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And again, that should be to me an independent decision. Some people will be like, that 40,000. That's worth it for me. Some people, that might be able to send your first kid to college, get a better house, move to a better district. But again, we should put you in a position to come back and do more, not to opt out.
That's a good way to put it because and for us, for my family, it's a sentimental thing. We not hurting for the money, or it's not like we need to split. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's a family house. So everybody come back there, they can use it for what they needed to use it for. But I understand what you're saying. That people, like, if you have a chance to make a profit on it.
Real talk, one of the things, and I don't even share this with anybody, I lost my family house. So when I tell you that the entrepreneurship is failures and losses, it's my grandma's house, my mama's house, I got it, went through foreclosure, I lost it. So as far as defining things and holding on, so that was like not only like emotionally, like, oh shit, I'm a loser, but at the same time, I could have did more for the family, getting rid of this before that real estate market now dropped. It's worth $30,000 less than it was. It's still the family house. But so I just think it's whatever those reasons is, but I think we have to get past that whole. We need to advocate for more minorities buying real estate, and we need to advocate that they're buying it to create wealth. You know what I mean? That's that next step over affordable housing, right? So the first step is just getting quality housing over your head that you can afford, and that's good. I mean, the next step of that is to make some money off of it and then keep moving up. Now, if the city was smart, what they would do is make sure that when people did move or they made that second purchase, that in all neighborhoods, there were housing choices that accommodated everybody, right? So as soon as you get 2 kids and you want an attached garage and you don't want to have bathroom upstairs in the finished attic, you got to move to the suburb. Or you got to move out of 49507, right? So again, I do think we can do some proactive things with planning in the city of Grand Rapids to make sure we have housing options for middle class, especially minorities, to keep them in the city. But we need to get over minorities selling their houses and start getting on. Okay, now that you sold this house,
what's next?
This lot, what you doing with it? Are you investing that back? Like what changes are you making? And so forth. But
you're not just buying rims.
Exactly.
So do you think they should teach more? Do you think they should teach more financial literacy in school early on? Because that was a big debate going on right now too. Like kids don't really.
You think about it like this. I know when I graduated high school, I had to learn how to sign a check, and that was it.
Yep, that's it.
So I feel like it was designed to be more of a consumer versus learning how money works.
That's definitely true.
Credit and saving.
Interest
like those
rates
things are not put out there.
Right, not at all. I mean, I was the cat that had an Escalade and no garage. You know what I mean? But that boy was new. It was always clean.
Right.
Couldn't even pull it all the way to my driveway. My driveway was so narrow. But again, I made it.
You got it.
I made it. You couldn't tell me nothing. I just opened an insurance office, got my first big bonus. So I do think financial literacy is part of it. I think also, though, and this is this is hard for me as I get older. Some of it is accepting just the pace of change. Like, this is just the first generation of black folks who have money. Yeah. And we don't have no old money, right? Like, we all knew money. So it's impossible for you to know all the investments and what you're supposed to do and what you're not supposed to do and so forth. So I think we getting better with it as the culture ages, but I mean, part of it is to be expected from first generation opportunity, second generation opportunity. But I do think part of it is, to your point, we're trained to be consumers and we consume good. But as far as entrepreneurship, I would argue if you're born in a black and brown community, if you're born poor or not rich, you do this thing that's called entrepreneurship, but you just call it a hustling. Like, I could take anybody that I grew up with, anybody that's still out here, and it ain't a business they can't run. So I think the financial literacy piece needs to be, we need to really, especially in our community, we need to champion and push for and teach how transferable entrepreneurship skills are. So in the dominant white community, for instance, like the startups we deal with, it's no Mark Zuckerberg. It's the 40, 50-year-old white guy who is his second or third company he's on. He learned all that stuff, right? Like, I got an opportunity. Trial and error, right? I got an opportunity with 40 acres because I done did everything wrong, right? Yeah. So you know it. But what happens in the minority community is, if you're a barber, you're a barber. Like, you could be a barber for 20 years. Nobody looks at you as a businessman who made payroll, who pays rent, who knows how to do your books. If you mechanic, you're a mechanic. Everywhere else, those skills are transferable. Everywhere else, that they communities and they populations, when they look for the next person to own this manufacturing, they're going to look for that person in sales. They're going to look for that. In the minority community, not only do we do it to ourselves, we allow others to act like entrepreneurship ain't transferable. There's no way. Like think about it. The easiest definition, or the easiest example of this, right? There's no way that if you've been locked up for selling weed, that you now can't run a marijuana dispensary. Right? So that's the easiest analogy. And I know that's like, but same thing, like you would be surprised like how many people think they can't make it in business and so forth, and how many systems are in place that allows people to think that when they getting up every day doing what it takes to run a business. They
transferable skills.
They're working with minimum resources. They're making something out of nothing. They're making sure their whole team taken care of. They got a shared economy on how they do everything. They doing their market research before they make purchases. These are all fundamentals of business.
The skill set transfers.
That we just not given that opportunity to. And part of that is we've approached economic development and financial attainment as a social justice issue. You know what I mean? And this ain't social justice. This is about financial opportunity. I don't need you to give me a $5,000 grant or to make me feel good or whatever. I actually need you to work on them laws that make banks not lend to us. We actually need opportunity to be at the table. So we need connectivity to resources and opportunity. We don't need, this sympathy because of what happened in the past. So I don't want a business writing class that some funder has paid for 30 people to learn how to write a business plan. I want a community and resources to ask of those 30 people how many went on to open businesses. Right. And I think that's kind of where we got into this social justice mentality around entrepreneurship. And entrepreneurship really at its core is, think about y'all. If people remove that friction and they remove them obstacles, y'all could do the rest. Yeah. You could do the rest.
We've done parties, individual things. Right. Even in my MBA class, when I was obtaining my master's, I told the people would look at me, I was the only black guy in there. I told them, I said, I know 100 guys that can come here and do this. 100 street guys that can come in here and do this. Easy. And they kind of looked at me like, what do you mean? I'm like, I know guys that do things every day, or they used to do things every day, and they could come in here and those skills transfer to the classroom, and you're making them, get a degree to prove they can do it. But
it's about opportunity. I mean, I talk to people every day that be like, oh man, you did. Like, I tell everybody, I'm extraordinary. And I put together extraordinary teams, and we do extraordinary shit because that's all it is the opportunity. But I've been blessed. I'm not smarter than nobody. I work all the time, but I don't know that I can't say I work harder than anybody. I was just blessed to have an expanded network and be connected at the right points in time. And I think you just got to have that humility about yourself and offer opportunity, understand the opportunity that you have. It ain't really yourself. I think a lot of us when we make it. We think we done did something spectacular.
Right,
you know, I think my hustle was harder than yours. I was just lucky as hell. And I'm trying to be that luck to other entrepreneurs and so forth because in our community, in the majority community, it's that rich uncle that puts you on, right?
Yeah.
You go to somebody that puts you. We don't have that in our community.
Right.
So for us, and I think people who have quote unquote made it, which I don't really know what that means. I think it's more about who are we connected and opening up our networks. Anybody know me? No. You got full access to my network. If it's somebody I could connect you to somewhere I can help you, that's what we're supposed to do. We also know that a lot of times people look at their network as this commodity and they just point person. Oh, you got to go through me to get to this person. You got to go through this to do this.
Trust us, we know how this works.
That's the craziest ish to me ever because how you build is opening up your network. You know what I mean? Because then, think about it. I open up my network. Y'all prosper. Y'all ain't gonna forget who opened the network up.
Right.
You got more brothers prospering.
Exactly.
You got more connectivity, and it's all like this ain't no pie. But this is where finance comes in. See, it ain't no pie.
Yeah.
We making the batter.
Yeah,
so we arguing over like it's the pie. Like this is about how much batter we gonna make. So as
how
long
many
as we making it and
yeah.
expanding it, it don't matter what I give you or give you because we out here building it.
Yeah.
We always acting like we taking from something, but that's that consumer mindset again instead of that builder's mindset.
And we can relate to that because people call us all the time, Rich Pete back there too, but people call, like, do y'all know somebody? You know somebody that can do this, that, and this? And we put people on. People don't understand how much we send people to other people. Not because we're a middleman or you got to give us a cut.
That's what it takes. That's
the
game.
Like, no, if Comp can't DJ or Mega can't DJ or Rich can't take pictures, I'm sending them to Jamie or somebody else. Like, you just send them to people and it's organically, it'll come back around. And I think sometimes black people feel like once we get an opportunity to do something, they kind of like hold on to it and strangle it to death.
And that's people in general, right? We got a hard time. It's humility, bro. We have a hard time just admitting we ain't that great. You know what I mean? So we got a lot of people who you are successful and so forth. It's hard to be like, well, I'm really successful because my man put me on.
Yeah.
Like,
nobody want to say that.
Yeah, nobody will say that. So like we take all these classes and so forth. At Link, remember, it was like who you know, what you know, where you live, and what you make. Here, it's the who you know. Yeah. Like, that's not even looked at as a theory of change. I would argue with anybody, especially in Grand Rapids, who you know matters. And who you know,
absolutely.
Who you know, and a lot of times in business and in success matters more than what you know.
Yeah.
And that's not something we teach. So we don't teach our kids how to network. We don't have our kids out at shorties, shaking hands with everybody. Mm-hmm. We don't look at networking and expanding our circle as a way to accumulate wealth and opportunity,
and like they say, exactly a lot of business deals are made on the golf course.
On the golf course, yeah, for sure.
You're networking.
Do you feel like black people, not necessarily us, but like some black people are uncomfortable outside of their race because of where they grew up?
Oh yeah. And I think that things don't just happen. It's allowed, right?
Yeah.
It's a reason that they're uncomfortable is because it's designed to make them uncomfortable. Like, again, if you have that pie mentality, why do you want to increase the amount of people that has access to the resources?
Yeah.
So I think when you look at banks, when you look at even venture capital or so forth, opportunity has been so designed around your ability to say the right things and know the language and be in the right rooms and so forth. Like, how could we be comfortable with that when we've never been exposed to it?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, again, when we network, we're taught to network for jobs. Most of the time, when you hear networking, it's about jobs. Like, you go to this networking event and get a job. Nobody told us, like, all your life, just keep expanding your circle and make sure you're meeting people who are different than you because you never know when that'll come back. My biggest investor in my latest business was somebody I worked with for 8 years and didn't know he had $1. Didn't just honor, but we used to have a saying, it's corny, but we used to have to say, like, honor the work and the work will honor you.
Yeah.
We just did good work. And then, bam, when he had an opportunity or whatever, we came together and we opened up 40 acres. So you never know where your network is going to take you. But I would say the biggest, if I drop jewels on anybody, especially in Grand Rapids in the Midwest, where you got such a small concentration of power and wealth, is to expand who you know.
Yes.
And expand who you know on a personal level. Like, not like business, don't come to me and give me your card, and not me, it don't matter because I ain't in that circle. But don't just give me a card. Make sure that they know you, like, what I mean, just personally. And I think that's where we're not comfortable.
Yeah.
We're not comfortable I could kick it with you. And we're not comfortable having personal relationships with people that
we're not cool.
No,
with.
we're not cool with.
Yeah.
Neither is any human.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, it's a must for our survival, and it's optional for them.
Yes, great.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think if you're gonna teach, like I used to tell people all the time, like I'm bi-dialectical. Like what you talking? Like, I could talk. I mean, you just take me to the boardroom and I could chop it up. You could take me to the block and I could chop it up.
Yeah.
We gotta do that. We gotta understand that they got the privilege. They don't have to meet us. So you got people that's trying to like what we try to do is make those unusual connections, right, and facilitate those. But yeah, we got to get out of our comfort zone. We got to know people. We got to sign our kids up for maybe to hoop that place where they wouldn't normally hoop, to go out here and do that, because it goes back to my original point. We all interconnected, even if we don't think we are.
And that, I'm going to tell you guys a secret to my success, my little bit of success. Going to Union. I went to school with kids I would have never seen.
That is true.
I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. Like, we got on the bus from Lafayette, from Lafayette, Cass, Delaware area, Highland, whatever, and we took the bus over to Union. And I met kids who parents went to West Catholic their whole life. They wanted to go to public school, or they come from other places. And these are kids of all different races and backgrounds that I would have never have met going to Ottawa or Christian. So that really benefited me a whole lot, man, and put me in a position where I can talk around, like you say, coming from Lafayette to anywhere else. So that really is a true statement. So,
well, let me ask you this: what has been one of your biggest challenges as far as your dealings with Start Garden and then Linked and then owning several businesses? What has been, and even if you have more than one, what has been like one of your biggest challenges that is like I had to take this on the chin, or I still struggle with?
My biggest challenge is I don't want to say keeping it 100, but I can't. I don't like BS,
right?
And I don't like injustice. So, usually when I take a job or on my career side, I'm usually one of the first blacks, or it's known that it's this equity type of driven mission, and it is having the patience with the pace of change. You know what I mean? Because back to again, nothing happens in communities; it's allowed. Yes. So the reason we're 51 out of 52 is we came up with a commission policy and wards and so forth to stop opportunity from everybody else. We got lending. It's not just this fluke, right?
It didn't happen, yeah.
So usually my biggest obstacle is when we get to a point where it becomes optional for other people. It's not optional for me because I got sons in this fight. And I don't want my kids at the same tables having these same conversations 15 years ago because I decided to shut up, or I bit my tongue, or I didn't represent. But at the same time, unfortunately, a lot of times this change work is got to be fed like comfort food. You know what I mean? When you're working with other people who have that privilege to opt out. So that space always, I'm always growing in that space.
And trying to find that balance.
And trying to find that balance without knowing I won't lose myself in it.
Right.
And I used to have this saying, and that's actually where, to be honest, it was really what drives me so hard, because I'm so scared that somebody gonna be like, okay, then fuck you.
Yeah.
Then I'll be on my own, right? So I gotta have my business. I gotta, you know what I mean? So part of why I work is to back up all the junk I talk. The other thing is, it's just the more you know, right? Just understanding how undercapitalized we are as people when we open these businesses. You know what I mean? And how we gotta be profitable in 3 months. But again, if you got that rich uncle, you got 3 years. You know what I mean? Just dealing with the discomfort of that, and because I think I know a lot, thinking you know the solutions, but the system just not getting, you know what I mean? It's just that whole status quo.
Right.
I could think of 2 or 3 policies right now that would advance minorities in the city of Grand Rapids. I could point to 2 or 3 people that's hindering the progress of minorities and entrepreneurship in Grand Rapids.
Are they minorities or not?
Oh, hell no. But you know what I mean? But just knowing that, like knowing enough where you can't really fake it no more. Like, no, I'm with you. And I know, like,
what time it is.
If you really thought that, you would have signed that ordinance then that allowed this. Well, if you really felt that, but just continuing to break down this structure, right? Because we're in a structure. I'm no longer worried about, you know, the racist dude who ain't coming in the 40 and spending no money, or the dude that's gonna call me on my name on Facebook. I'm more concerned about good people like me, you, other people good people who wake up every day and we still got the same racialized outcomes. Half of us still graduate, because clearly that ain't just nobody care about kids. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's systematic.
The mortality rate still look like a third world country. Right. It clearly just ain't just prenatal care. You know, like think about it. California got more black and brown judges than any other state. They still lock up more black and brown people than any other state because they got the 3 strikes. So again, working on things from that structural system level it's challenging, because you're not gonna see those wins overnight.
No, like it's almost a generational process.
Yep, and you don't have a generation when you was, right? So, like, even body cams, like, we fought the police, got body cams in 90 days. Yeah. To fix the structure of policing in Code of Blue is systematically tearing down a whole lot of other things, right? So it's those balancing those small wins. And then I guess I won't get, not burning out people around me, because I think one thing about driven people and entrepreneurs is they don't see what they did. You know what I mean? So I don't look at myself as a successful entrepreneur, a successful executive, or any of that. Like, I think that hunger, that drive, you get
absolutely. It's always more.
I got more drive now than I did when I was broke. And you know what I mean? So I think that's that balancing that, because shit, I'm about 30 years older too. So you know, I gotta lay down at night, but
Yeah, but I think people don't understand that you get stronger as you move on, and so they kind of have a fear of failure when those failures kind of fuel you.
And you got more to lose, right? Like, so that's the flip side. So I used to run my mouth because I was like, well, shit, this is the worst I'll ever do. Like, I got this job, so I got this business, so this is the worst I'll ever do. I mean, I can. It might get to a point. I can see it getting to a point where people would think, well, you know, I got 3 kids, I got this house payment, I got this. You know what I mean? That's not how I look at it, but I'm growing in an understanding. But at the end of the day, if you're not willing to risk what other people don't even have, then nobody else is gonna get it. Like, you know what I mean? So at the end of the day, you know what I mean? That's some Wakanda shit. Like, we know we got it over here, but I ain't gonna give it to nobody. Like, So I think we have to figure out, as a body of people in the city of Grand Rapids, how to engage middle class black and brown people. Because that's when the struggle has just began, and that's when you have the most power. So what happens with us is we opt out of the fight as soon as we're able to really fight it.
To stay in the comfort zone.
So what we end up is organizing.
We get comfortable.
We always organizing with non-financial people, right? Yeah. Which shouldn't be an issue, but this is America, you know what I mean? Where you can get more change with 10 millionaires than 1,000 residents. You know what I mean? But nobody's putting out work to make those 10 millionaires. You know what I mean? To come to the table. And that's kind of my evolution in social justice, I guess, is my goal in life is to create 10 millionaires, because I truly believe that
we're the list that, man. We trying to sign up.
Because think about it.
8 more million. No, 7 more, because Rich is in the room. We need 7 more millionaires.
It gotta be 11, because I need to be one first. But again, it's think about it. Like, we do all this social justice. What bigger thing I do in social justice to make you rich?
Right.
If you're successful, your business successful, you ain't worried. You're gonna do more around social justice than any class, anything. Same thing for you. You're gonna So I think
sitting in the seminar singing Kumbaya ain't gonna get the job done.
It's about economic empowerment. It's about financial equity, and we gotta really start changing this conversation. So, like, when I'm in meetings now, whether it's the city, the state, anybody, if you can't measure it, don't talk to me about it. If it can't, like, at the end of the day, when we're talking on behalf of the community, if we're talking about any type of resource, if it can't be quantified, it does not exist. And we gotta have that mentality, because what's the good of being civil and having the right of people being civil, but you broke?
Yeah,
I get you, call me on my name and cut a check. Like, you know what I mean? But I mean, that's the mentality, right? We're going for the civil actions and this soft stuff that can't be measured. And we done fell for the okie doke. So for instance, there was an RFP from the city maybe last year. 99% of the money went to white organizations and firms. So I asked about it, and they said with a straight face, well, they got the money, but the black and brown community is getting the classes.
Can you explain what an RFP is?
Request for proposal. So they were looking to teach people about high tech, high growth.
Okay.
So, but the wisdom, that's the framework, and that wisdom is the resources go over here, the classes and that go over here, as if we have a capacity issue.
Right.
The black
we
community,
can't do
brown community doesn't have a capacity issue. We have a resource issue.
Right.
Meaning, if you give everybody, you give me black, brown, white, green, yellow, line them all up in the beginning. You give them the same amount of resources. In the beginning, I will put my money on the black and brown
my people, yes,
all the time, right? But it's the way it's taught to us is always about the person. It's not about the resources. It's about if you know better, you do better. So, for instance, some reason, if I teach you how to write this business plan, somehow that's going to be bigger than your inability to go to a bank where they ain't lending to you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trust me, like I see it all day. If you know the right people, you don't need a business plan. You know what I mean? Because
that goes back to that networking piece, and then the honor of your work.
But resources over rhetoric. That's what we gotta get on that.
Yeah, that's a big component. This is going to be a real popular podcast. I can tell.
I mean, because and this is one thing when we start talking about social justice and economic empowerment and raising awareness with, let's flat out say it, with people that's not black and brown, because a lot of times they don't get it or they don't care. The best way to get their attention is to hit them where they hurt the most, and that's the pockets.
Right. And this is totally new for me, so people who know me they got to own something. Sometimes they really don't know. Like, I approached the beginning of my career at Link around advocacy. I figured if you was in Grand Rapids, you knew in 49507 these kids had higher elevated lead level than anywhere in the state.
No, people don't know that.
I figured you knew that half the people, like, you know what I mean? Because that was my lived experience. I was born in 495, you know what I mean? So,
I knew. My Uncle Dante told me.
How could you not know? So, like, I was really combative. Like, that's probably why I was an advocacy, because I just assumed people knew and didn't care. And I'm not saying it's better, but in reality is they don't know, and they are surrounded with the privilege to not learn.
Right.
So you're right. So the money lessons, kind of talking them relationships again, being them unusual suspects, and just getting relationships that go a long way. But at the end of the day, I truly believe it's not. I gotta say this politically correct. It's not our responsibility to right the wrongs of the past, right? So that shouldn't be our fight. You know what I mean? It should be our demand, not our fight. And I think how you approach the struggle is dependent on how you look at that, right? So I go in flat out. I talk about racialized outcomes. I talk about quantifying the resources you're giving to us, and I talk about outcomes like that. Like, that's what it's about. It's not about anything else. Like, we need financial equity. And again, I'm truly, like, this isn't even race dependent, right? This is for anybody. If you solve the housing crisis for that person who's coming out of Mel Trotter, for that person who's in the trailer park right now, for that person who's in transitional housing, you automatically solved it for me and you. So when communities take the time and the resources and energy to solve the problems for the hardest hit people, inevitably the people who are better positioned prosper too. So we gotta look at this, we gotta stop looking at it like, oh, if we do this for them, we're not gonna do it for them. Well, because if you can figure out how to make minimum wage or living wage, just think what our salary is going to be then. So again, like we need to look at this net benefit, and again understand that it's none of this us and them or othering people. It's really how do we look at all this interconnectivity and build resources that affect the most marginalized, understanding that everybody else will benefit if we do that work.
Yeah. So transitioning from this topic onto 40 acres. How did you go from, was it insurance company? nonprofit into the restaurant business?
Man, because I'm an opportunist. I mean, honestly, a good entrepreneur is an opportunist. The opportunity presented itself with investors, with talent. So I had this vision of setting up 40 Acres Enterprises, which was going to be this holding company for black companies around black excellence. So for instance, we're working on like this 40 Acre Labs, which is about coding and app development and giving people access, again, this network, right? Giving people access to people they would not naturally have access to and resources. But I really didn't know where we were going to start. I actually thought it would be in the development coming from Link. So I thought it would actually be a development project. Fast forward to the investor that I knew was doing this development, and we were just chopping it up. And I had learned a lot through a prior restaurant, which I failed, not failed, but it was more of a nonprofit model that was about workforce development, and we learned real quick, like, no, it has to be scalable, you had to do all that. So it was really putting together 40 Acre Enterprises, and then 40 Acre Soul Kitchen came along after that. And it gave us the opportunity to do everything we wanted to do around food. So if you think about food is usually the lowest denominator as the introduction of culture. Right? Like you might never go to China, you'll eat Chinese food. You eat Thai food, you eat Indian food, or so as far as exposing people to culture, food is that. We felt we didn't have that represented correctly in the African American community. So how I was telling the designers is, just like you walk into a Chinese restaurant that's unapologetically Chinese, I want 40 Acres to be unapologetically black when you walk in. But a black celebration that's authentic and unapologetic, right? Yeah. Because to be honest with you, a lot of people don't know our culture. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like a lot of we don't celebrate it from a cultural standpoint. No. We don't talk about our
It's kind of lost at some
point. We don't talk about
point.
Our music. We don't talk about our food. We don't really put that together in a way that say, okay, now here's black culture on display.
Present the package.
And y'all have it. And because what we usually try to do is we dumb it down here, we water it down here. So we wanted to just be 100% unapologetic, but at the same time, make sure that it was modern, new. It was us, right? Because that's the other piece about us. Like, probably the most insulting thing that happens at 40 Acres, people walk in and be like, oh, it's so nice. Like, what the hell you think? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
he speaks so well.
It's clean in here.
That's it.
That's what it is.
We get all of that because, again, they're not saying it. But the unbiased or their biased conclusion is the black culture is beneath this or whatever. Yes. So we wanted to elevate that whole thing, and the restaurant was just a perfect spot to do it. So the more we messed around with it, and then I wanted to make sure that it was a couple things, that whatever we went into, we could be the best at it. We could get the best young black people to do it, and that it'll be profitable. So I was able to hook up with Lewis, the chef, Tramel, got a good investor, and we were able to do it high end. And it's unapologetically black. So like, we know we loud. Now you come in, I be cracking up when they were like, oh, the music loud. Like, yep. That's how we get out. Like, yep. You know what I mean? Yeah, food looks hot. Yep. Like it's again, because that's our culture. But I tell you, like, if it's been phenomenal the way the culture has been embraced. The other thing is, we knew, and this is like, to kind of put this out here, like, we knew we were building a black business, but we also knew math that in Grand Rapids is 70-30. So it made no sense to build a business that was only going to cater to 30% of any market, right? Because then if you even got 100% of that market, you're going to go out of business. Yes. So knowing this and just keeping true to ourselves, what we tried to do was say 100% unapologetically African American, while at the same time being open, friendly, and professional enough where anybody could come in and enjoy that culture. Because that's how it should be. Our culture ain't standoffish. Our culture ain't all combative. I mean, that might be what you see in the media, but that's not our grandparents. That's not our house. That's not our families. You know what I mean? And so we wanted, again, for those people that come in, for it to be an unapologetic black culture, like, and everything is thought of. Whether it's a kids menu where, the word search got like activists in it, or the coloring pages is a prominent, African American female from the past, to the pictures on the wall to the music, it's all 100% our culture. So from that standpoint, that was really, it was to stay 100% unapologetically us and to make money. And that was the formula. And that was our formula that we tried to get to. And I mean, we had demographics, like it has to be Tipping Point neighborhood. Like, hate to say it, the model works in a neighborhood business district, that's gentrifying.
Yep.
That's where this model works. I could pick so we knew the market. I mean, and that's why you invest too. This is why it makes so much sense to invest in indigenous people from the community, right? Because they know the market.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't have to tell me the market on Wealthy Street. Like, I've been walking up there since it was McDonald's.
Yeah.
You didn't have to tell me how it was changed. You didn't have to tell me how to get to this group and that. Like we knew that market. I think again, we look past a lot of entrepreneurs right in our own backyard, and they have the most. That's called market research in the entrepreneur space, right? That's just your hood, knowing your neighborhood, right?
Know your people.
So we were able to just take all of that, and it's just the timing of everything. The timing was just perfect. And now it's 40 Acre Soul Kitchen.
So what are the hours of operation for 40 Acres?
40 Acres is open daily till 11, midnight on weekends.
Midnight on weekends. You open Sundays and Mondays as well?
Closed Mondays.
Closed Mondays. Yeah. So Tuesday to Sunday.
Tuesday to Sunday.
Weekends till midnight.
Weekends till midnight.
Okay.
And we don't kick anybody off, so.
You dare to. What's the address?
1059 Wealthy Street, Southeast.
I can't get no food after I get done DJing, so.
Yeah, no, I had the Creole catfish. Fire with the cornbread. Yeah. Fire. So yeah, I go up there. I haven't gotten anything else yet. That's why I keep going to get that. Right. But I fire. So we kind of want to transition from that aspect to the political front. Right. Would you ever think about running for office?
No.
Why not?
I used to think I did. One, I think it puts unnecessary handcuffs on your approach.
Okay.
My approach isn't built for politics. Like I'm the master of uncomfortable conversations and difficult conversations.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know that I would be doing my most impactful work being on that side of politics.
Offense, okay.
Now being behind some politics, being political, instead of being a politician, I'll always be political. Will I always be? I mean, we helped start Equity PAC, which is all about funding equity-minded politicians, again with money, not anything else. So I think I'll always have a political agenda, and I always make sure that issues such as equity and entrepreneurial rights and so forth are championed. I'm increasingly believing and understanding that I ain't built for that role. Mm-hmm. I do think, however, that there needs to be some intentionality in bringing young minority people into politics. Okay. And I think we need to really start working hard, especially with the demographics changing and neighborhoods gentrifying. We're easily looking at a day where what used to be the historical black community is no longer represented by a black or brown leader. So I do see the importance of it. It's just not for me.
So you had touched on it earlier in the interview about the legalization of marijuana and how someone who has a work history of
That's right.
A work history?
Yeah. Like that. I mean, that's what it is.
Yeah. Qualified resume.
Qualified resume.
I'm a vet.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts with it becoming legal now, and what do you see with that industry? Pros and cons.
I think the legalization of marijuana is probably one of the biggest social justice wins that we've had in this country. I think it's shame on us if 20 years from now the black and brown community looks back at marijuana and our story be of incarceration and the majority story be of wealth creation.
Right.
So I think as long as it's tied to education for youth and some type of expungement program, because the only thing worse than making it legal is if you're still locked up. So like something in California, like where they went back to like 1976 and sponged all these records. So I think you can do some robust social justice with it. The business, it's a whole new, I mean, I tell people like this, like, this is paramount to like watching the old Al Capone movies before alcohol. Now look at Budweiser, look at all this. Like, this is going to be that industry 50, 60,
it's
70
the green
years.
rush.
And we don't know if that's the direction it goes. It's going to be grown and commoditized, right? Mm-hmm. Which means those early people in is where that wealth is going to be. Everybody else is going to be a worker, right? So now I think my job and where I've been behind the scenes is making sure that whatever ordinance is written, whatever planning policy goes through, that it's opening the opportunity to minority-owned dispensaries. Because the flip side to it is because it's federally still illegal, quote unquote, but legal in the state, it's all a cash business.
Yes.
So like how I got my liquor license, I had to put up X amount of assets. Right. But I could put up the business, I could put up this. Like with this, you need cash. Mm-hmm. So the hurdle to enter is already so high on the state level.
Right.
That we just got to make sure that municipalities are being creative and innovative and making sure that the opportunity on the making money side is available to us, because that's the other thing is we can't take the social justice win and then get them the money win, right?
Right.
Like, okay, we expunge our records. Right. So, oh yeah, by the way, if you do have a record, you can't get your license. Like, no, we need to make sure we are vigilant in how they roll it out in Michigan. And I think California did a great role model in that, right? How they tied it to social justice, how they tied it. I think you got Colorado, how they're doing some cool stuff with education and all that. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting to see, because if you've been around, it'll be interesting to see how that takes to Midwest type of values.
Yeah, because some people are already bucking the system. Some people are like, no, not was it Saugatuck or somewhere, like, we're not going to honor that, and so.
Right.
But that's because they come here. That's the thing about it. That's the other thing that I really figured out is, you
can travel to the hood. Like, you could travel to a place where they're doing it. This is going
to be messed up, and I'm going to say this because I didn't know this until, my circles changed. Mm-hmm. Marijuana been legal for everybody else.
Yeah.
Like, that's just the reality we need to deal with.
Yeah.
Right.
When it comes to edibles, when it comes to smoke, when it comes to all this, like,
certain cities, it's a ticket.
Is the decriminalization of black and brown people around marijuana.
Yes.
Right.
There was never criminalization around marijuana for the majority community.
No,
this is really...
Like in Ann Arbor, it's a ticket. So most of the kids going to school there in college, and they've been smoking weed forever. They get a ticket, they pay the ticket, that's it.
Right.
Well, and that's the whole culture around marijuana is heavily racial.
Yeah, even the origin of making it illegal.
Even the blunts, the lifestyle, the culture compared to, the prescription, the pill, and the executive. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And how we try to paint totally different pictures of an urban marijuana user
versus a joint smoking CEO.
Right. And the difference is access and money, right?
Yeah.
Because who don't want to smoke better?
Right. Yeah. So we do have a music component here. If you smoke, we do have a music component here though on the show and on the podcast. So we have to ask you these music questions.
All right. Now you're about to.
I need
to revoked.
Nah, no, you'd be surprised.
All right, go ahead.
Top 5 MCs.
Ooh.
Dead or alive.
Nas, J, interchangeable. I actually named my son Jada Nasir, so. They got it. So I got to do Jay, Nas. 5. You can have. We do 10 sometimes. So you keep going, but your 5 is like your most important. After that, it don't matter to me. Like after those first 2, to me they got the crown. Like everybody else,
just don't matter.
You got to put Wayne in there. I put Wayne in there lyrically. I gotta put M in there lyrically in the top 10, maybe not the top 5.
Okay, because they don't like Eminem.
M is not in my top 10.
Not in the top 10? I gotta put him in the top. Just lyrics.
I feel like the same way.
Just lyrics.
Yeah.
Like if you were to just read it.
Yeah.
You wrote it down, read it. Like you heard it all before.
Yeah. Oh no, we argue about this a lot. So you got Jay, Nas, Wayne, M. Give me one more. No Big, no Pac?
I like Big and Pac. I'll take Big and Pac over M. Because M is in the top 10. So we can round it with Big and Pac.
Okay.
But Big and Pac, my era, the music has evolved. Like a lot of people argue, and I got young, because a lot of people argue that music has gotten worse, which we are in kind of this dip. But overall, to me, lyrically, people are like light years ahead. Like, you know what I mean? When you look at and I hate to say this, but I might as well cause that. When you look lyrically at a Lil Wayne compared to Pac, just generationally, like that's just a whole different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The evolution of when you listen to old school hip hop where it started, it was party music. You know what I mean? It was party music. It wasn't necessarily lyrical. So I tend to be more lyrical.
So Nas, Jay. So now I need your top 5 albums. Because it doesn't have to be hip hop.
And this is what. And let's frame it up like this. All right. Mm-hmm. These 5 albums will be used as the soundtrack for your life.
Oh, duh. Y'all gotta give me these pre-questions.
We had to submit these. I got your assistant.
We'll come back.
Man, it's gonna be all over the place.
And it can be, man. It happens. I have people that come on here and they say rock albums, gospel albums is just like that definitely. Sometimes.
Yeah, it would have to be. It would have to go right in that order then. So it would have to be.
Because at Alabama A&M, I'm sure you had an album where it's like, you know what?
I used to argue with Willie D is doper than Nas at Alabama A&M. Don't even get me on that.
They say,
I mean, really, like almost, yeah.
It's a regional thing down there.
Yeah, the first Nas album, number 1.
Illmatic,
definitely.
What's J album?
I know, that's what I'm saying.
It's reasonable. The print, it's got. I know a J album's in there.
It is either. I'm gonna go with the first Blueprint.
Okay.
First Blueprint.
Yeah. Then I'm gonna go with first Biggie album.
Okay.
Dang, got Violent on. You got to go with the first Pac album.
Yeah.
They got.
No Wayne album made it. Which Carter?
What's that?
If it was, it's a Carter one. But I gotta flip up. I gotta flip up the whole style now though because
that's 4. You got one more.
And this gonna be left field. Like it's probably like a Side A album or something. Like you know what I mean? I gotta go totally.
I gotta balance.
I gotta do one of my detached things.
Like you. It's been a long day. Go home, put Sade on.
It's either gonna be like an old like Maze album, something old school. Something old school. Something old school that got all the beats on all the new school stuff.
They sample, right. Like where they get this from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, I didn't know that was made back then. Yeah.
Okay. Before we get out of here, what's next? You got a question? Go ahead.
I got some questions. All right.
All right, go ahead.
So, because you went to Alabama A&M.
Yep.
The argument of going to a HBCU versus a non-HBCU, do you feel like going there helped grow you into where you are, and would it have been the same if you went somewhere else?
That's weird. Okay, let me think. Because I went to Grand Valley too. Yeah. So I'm thinking.
And I asked that because you talked about networking and dealing outside of your circle.
I think going to a HBCU allows you the space to grow and become a more insightful, better you, which allows you to then interact with people better. I think, like, my daughter is at Michigan State. I think she's naturally more predispositioned to network with people outside of herself, but just as a task. Like, I don't mind coming in as Darel, like, oh, how you doing, no matter who you are. I think it gives you this comfort and this pride.
And being grounded in who you are.
Secure. And knowing what it is, like, you know, you're not defined. I think the worst part, and I don't even know if this is an HBCU, I think one of the worst parts for any kid is to never leave home. Like to never live somewhere else. Yeah. You know what I mean? So I think just the experience of living somewhere else around a lot of young black people that's your age just exposes you to, you can't tell me like, oh, black people can't be in high tech. I'd be like, well, yeah, such and such. You can't tell me, you know, oh, blacks can't be engineers or this brother can't do this and that. And that's what going to HBCU allows you to see. Right. Whereas I think if you go to a Michigan State or a Grand Valley, though sometimes black excellence is still an anomaly.
Right.
And you know what I mean? And it's still this maybe or whatever. Like, you down south and you in it, you just see it all right there.
Because, like, for me, I grew up in Grand Rapids, but also in Detroit. Right. So I got an opportunity to see an abundance of black excellence, black entrepreneurs, and successful people on multiple levels. Right. Then to come back here and you see that night and day difference.
And your mind just gets to racing, like, oh, we need this, we need that. So if you put that with an entrepreneurial hustler spirit.
When I came back, I was like,
you can fill up a notebook with everything we don't have. So, that, I mean, and again, that's that being an opportunist. Like, so I think that's the HBCU just provides you with that. But I think you're right, like a black community and all that. I think it's probably more important that I went to a HBCU being from Grand Rapids than it would have been if I was born in like Detroit or something like that.
Got you.
But yeah.
Okay. one last thing from me.
All right.
Okay.
I just don't. We good. We don't want to keep him too long.
Right. I know you.
His assistant gave. She
Right.
looked at me in my face and said, "You got until this time."
Gotcha.
We got time. Yeah.
All right. Damon John, Fubu, Shark Tank, whatever. He has a thing where a lot of entrepreneurs and folks should have like a mission statement or it's like a 5-word thing that like defines or describes you. What would that 5 words be for you? Because you're into a whole bunch of other stuff, you know.
Yeah,
and I got one myself, but I was interested in seeing what you would have. Like these 5 words or this phrase.
So I'm gonna come up with them off the top of my head. That's actually a real good thing right there. I need to do that organizationally. I would say tenacious. I would say driven. Mm-hmm. I would say unapologetic, compassionate, and I know this is gonna sound and humble, but not like a humility and a humble, like right. Almost like a right. humility with pride type of thing. Like, you know what I mean? Like I could be humble,
like an appreciation.
I could be humble without
bowing down
and still be proud of myself and
right.
walk into a room like I'm that ish. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so that humility with pride, but you still knowing that I'm still only as good as what I do for you and look, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day,
you know your value, you know your worth.
Yeah, right. It ain't me. Like I just I'm blessed beyond anything my eyes done did. So
right.
Yeah.
So before we go, I wanted you to say or talk about anything you got going on, anything you want the people to know about you, anything you got in the works where maybe people can come and contact you or...
Well, anytime contact me. I mean, anything around business, holler at us at Start Garden. It's startgarden.com. 40 acres. We're having a New Year's Eve party. So I don't know when this airs. If people get out before New Year's Eve, we'll be opened up. But yeah, just anything we can do. My organization at Start Garden through the 40 Acres Consortium, anything that we could do around entrepreneurship, around furthering the culture, like just we have an open door. So like we always available between me or somebody on my team.
And you always sit in 40 Acres too. Every time I go in there, he's right there. He's entertaining. He's behind the bar sometimes. So he's very accessible. And we had a conversation. This is how this kind of started. I went in there, like we want to interview. He was like, just let me know.
Okay.
And,
well, we appreciate your time. We know you got a lot of stuff going on. So, folks, 2 bright guys.
We out.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you, man.
Thank you, man. I really
appreciate it.
Yeah.